So, you're asking me about my drag mothers. To be honest, I really don't have any drag mothers. There's queens that I used to look up to, and when I used to live in Florida, I really looked up to this queen that worked at the Copa named Miss Belle Kincaid. I will never forget Miss Belle Kincaid. I used to go to all of her shows, Belle at Midnight, and she was so fabulous. She really was. She was just raw and dirty, and I loved her. And she was very popular, and she had all the best nights at the club. But Belle Kincaid was 6'6", and at least 300, not big pounds, but she was proportionate. But I gravitated towards her because she was very funny. And then we started having a drink or two at the bar, hanging out, and she was telling me, I see you dress androgynous. Are you going to do drag and all that? And I was explaining to her that I wanted to do drag, but I wanted to do it slowly. Because back then I was going to school and I had a lot of responsibilities. And I was working part-time. So there was no time really for drag. But I used to go to all of her shows, Miss Belle Kincaid, and she had a show. It was Belle at Midnight, and she used to do this spoof off of Dynasty. I think they had like 20 TVs at the Copa, and Belle used to do the spoofs. She would reenact the Crystal and Alexis fighting scenes. Oh, it was the funniest thing, the way she used to roll around on the floor and scream and yell, and it used to always match what was happening on the screen, and the place would go crazy. Belle Kincaid was fabulous. She never taught me anything, but I got to know her very well. We had dinner a few times. I went to her place, and we would just hang out and chat. This was nothing else more than that. And Belle was more like a trans woman, so she really didn't wear a lot of makeup. She was just being herself. So she did have weave and all of that stuff, and she looked like a giant girl. I could say a giant girl. We went to Publix one time, y'all. I have to tell you this. We went to Publix one time, and there was Belle reaching at the top shelf to get a can of peaches, and her whole hand went over the top of the can of peaches. I just burst out laughing because I couldn't stop laughing. She's like, girl, you just got to do what you got to do. Not just the little cans of peaches. I'm talking about those big, giant cans that they have in school. When you're in high school and junior high school, you see those big cans of peaches that the cafeteria ladies bring out. That's what she did. Like she could palm a basketball, no problem. I love Miss Belle Kincaid. She was one of my inspirations. The beauty that I looked up to, and I thought she was very sexual and she knew how to work a crowd, and she didn't do a lot of shows, but she did enough shows to where she became famous. Miss Tiffany Ariagas. She was a woman, and she showed all the cleavage and the sexiness, and she would get half naked on the stage just giving you the illusion of just being naked and all this stuff. It was fabulous. Miss Tiffany Ariagas was fabulous, and she's still around to this day. I see her still doing shows up in Florida. Miss Tiffany Ariagas. Yes, Andretta Ariagas. Yes! Also, who else did I look up to? Miss Maxine Allen. Excuse me, y'all. Miss Maxine Allen. She was the tall, skinny, blonde bombshell that worked outside on the patio at the Copa. I used to love watching her because I thought that she was just natural. She was natural, and she was just doing what came natural to her. I liked the way she looked and everything. She didn't dress, very stagey, but she was more a real girl, but she was very, very just natural, and I like that. Then we had Letice Chevron from Daytona Beach, Florida. Ooh, this woman could perform, and she was gorgeous. She looked just like Donna Summers, and I used to never miss her shows when she would come to town because she had a little bit and she'd have them all pushed up. You know how it is. And I love Miss Letice Chevron. I don't know if she's still alive and she's still working or whatever, but I don't see her anywhere. Then I used to love Miss Sheena Kelly. Oh, when she came out in Miss Florida in just this plain red gown with a little bit of boobs pushed up and this long blonde hair cut in a blunt. Stunning. 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 Miss Sheena Kelly was stunning. I looked up to her too. I used to go watch all her shows when she would appear at the Copa because that was my bar I used to go to all the time. And then I started hanging out at Backstreet because Belle moved from the Copa to Backstreet, back and forth. And then there was Mr. Potty Mouth, which I really gravitated towards. I only seen one of her shows at the Copa, Mr. Charlie Brown. That queen was filthy, but she was funny. She was so funny. And I used to love when she used to turn that wig around. When she used to turn the wig around, I used to holler. I used to holler because it was the funniest thing. And who else is there? There's Miss Nikki Adams, little short, just full of energy and could dance and could just a professional. And that was, and those are just a few. Oh, and one I could say, because I hung around her a lot, because my drag daughter, Lola Lorraine, Ambrosia Tracy Key Stallone's son, Surrey Princess Dexter Alexander Kobe Monroe, after she had to change the name so many times, that's how I started referring to her when I would call her out on the stage. My daughter, Miss Lola Lorraine, she's passed on now, and I miss her. But we used to hang out with this queen called Miss Puddin in Fort Lauderdale all the time. And Miss Puddin was a sort of a normal guy, but he kind of lived like a girl. And then, but he always thought that he was just a natural girl. But we used to hang out with Miss Puddin, and I'll never forget the first time I saw Miss Puddin do Tina Turner in the Miss Florida pageant. It was the funniest thing in the world, because Miss Puddin wasn't a real performer. She just hung around a lot of the performers and all this stuff. But Miss Puddin, it was a great inspiration to me, and she used to make me laugh. And not only that, because I used to go to their house and hang out, me and my daughter, Miss Lola Lorraine, and those are some of the moments and some of the queens that inspired me. I used to watch a lot of Dana Manchester shows, but I think I was geared more towards the raunchy and the over the top and the glamour of it. You know, Dana Manchester was an all-around performer, and I admired what she did. But those ladies that I mentioned were women that inspired me in one way or another, almost to just be myself. And those were the kind of women that I used to like to be around, is women that were just really just being themselves and had that little bit of a to them when they needed to have it, when it came to making money or making a life for themselves or just making an impact on their audiences. Miss Tiffany Ariaga's girl, I take my wig off to you. I take my wig off to Miss Belle Kincaid and all of the other ladies I mentioned, because you really inspired me to be fabulous and to just keep going. And somewhere along that line, even though Belle was very reckless, there was still that sense of teaching me to be focused. And now it's 35 years later. Here I am. And there's a lot more to come. Look at that. Who would have ever guessed Stephanie Stevens would be still doing drag and doing better? And now I own a business. 35 years later. Who would have ever thought? Belle would be so proud of me. Belle would be so proud of me. And some of the other ladies I used to hang out with. And those are just some of my, I could just say drag mothers that taught me how to be balanced and sort of pursue my dream. And, you know, they were doing their thing in many different ways because they were very different people, but they were fabulous and they inspired me. So those are some of the ladies that I can say, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Belle. Okay? Okay.